Tell us about you and why you're running, and then we'll ask questions later.
All right, very good. Yes, I am running for Sheriff of Maricopa County and proud of it. I have absolutely loved many programs in the Sheriff's Office. Many of them. I love the posses, and I love the religious organization that goes in and spends their time giving church services to the inmates, gives them Bible studies to the inmates, choirs, and what have you. But I don't believe that imams should be allowed in there teaching Islam to our inmates. We don't need them leaving our jails having converted to be a Muslim, because Sharia law, as you know, does not go with the United States Constitution. But I love the programs that there are. Tent City, I have other ideas about Tent City. I love a lot of the things that go on in the Sheriff's Office. But I don't like the misconceptions of what really is going on in the Sheriff's Office. People are really buying it hook, line, and sinker that we should take the incumbent and keep him in. It's been 7 terms running for. And we need to have a little bit of a change, like Aaron Flannery was saying. We need a new set of eyeballs. The posses, for instance, we used to have at the Sheriff's Office 3,200 volunteer posse people. That's a lot of volunteers, wouldn't you say? We now have less than 500. Why does that happen? Well, one thing is the volunteers have been mistreated by people in enforcement support. Not a good thing to do to volunteers. The other thing is, now that the federal government has their hand into the Sheriff's Office, they're putting their own stipulations on volunteers. They're making volunteers take almost as many classes to be a posse member as deputies have to in order to be a deputy. And that's not what the volunteers are to do. They're to be a mere extension of what deputies do. They never have people arrested, but the actual deputy can be arresting a person, and then the posseman can take them to the jail once they're handcuffed. So they are an extension of the duties that the deputies do. But the program in itself needs to be revitalized and reorganized. And that's something we should all be able to appreciate. I'm sure you're all familiar with the fact that Sun City probably had one of the very largest posse groups in all of Maricopa. Consistently, they had 250 people over the years, year after year after year after year. Who did the public contact when they were in trouble? The posse people that were in their neighborhoods. There's less than 50 now. Who do the people at Sun City contact now? We also have a situation with satellites. We have the Maricopa County satellite here in the Civic Building. But what about places like Tonopah? It takes people an hour and a half to get to Tonopah if they have a police problem. That's a long time to wait, especially since you've probably been reading about dead bodies being found a lot in Tonopah recently. But we have a lot that is going on at the Sheriff's Office, and some of you may be familiar with the Melendrez versus Arpaio trial that's been going on for over 4 years. Anybody familiar with that? Okay. Well, it started out because they were being questioned on their practices of racial profiling. That's how that whole court thing started. But in the meantime, what has happened in the court is a lot of misdeeds by the Sheriff's Office have been found out. And how do I know? I go to all of the court sessions throughout the last 4 years. I get it firsthand. I don't read about it in the newspaper. I don't read things that people say, oh, the judge is really being bad to the sheriff's office. I don't read those types of things because I experience it firsthand and I see what is going on. I also know that a lot of the things that the judge has uncovered in this particular trial has been things that we have experienced. And it's oftentimes after meetings like this, I'll have someone come up to me and give me their own personal story of what they've experienced when the sheriff's office decides to retaliate if you don't go along with them. And we should not be afraid of our sheriff's office. When I grew up, we were taught to go to the cops when we were in trouble. Anybody else raised that way? Yeah, I think we were all in that era where that's who you ran to when you were in trouble. Now, this has become an office where you want to run away from because they have been spending they have had $240 million in court cases. And what do those court cases consist of? Things like illegal investigations on regular people like us. They are court awards for wrongful doing by the sheriff's office to people like you and like me. And we don't need to be paying for that. And we've also had 400 sexual assault cases that fell by the wayside and never got investigated. One of them happened to be my niece's rape, and it still goes on, and nobody investigates it. 400 of them. How does something like that happen? There's no accountability. And a lot of times, the command staff, which is very, very heavy at the sheriff's office, the command staff is way overdone. For a size of a sheriff's office, LA County has a bigger sheriff's office than Maricopa County, and they do not have as many command staff members. And the command staff members not only get themselves into trouble, they have their deputies get into trouble and do things that are not supposed to be done. Again, another thing that was uncovered in this court case when they were doing investigations. I believe that there needs to be accountability. How many of you run or have run your own business? Good. I started a business in 1980, and it's still going on today. I hired people. I unfortunately had to fire people. And when you hire people in your business, you expect them to do their job, correct? Isn't that what you are going to be paying them for? You're not paying them to go off and do their own thing in your business. But this is what is happening at the sheriff's office now. They are going out, the command staff is going out and doing their own thing. And I've seen it time and time again. I have been to many, many command staff meetings, and I have seen that there's no accountability for what these command do. They're told to do a job, and they say, okay, they make a U-turn out of the meeting, and they go do whatever they want. If you've run a business, you know you need to have accountability. If there was only one thing I could do for the sheriff's office, it would be to make the sheriff's office accountable. Accountable for their jobs, accountable for the money they're spending, accountable for donations they get, accountable on every single level that goes on at the sheriff's office. Some people would even come up to me and say, you can't run a sheriff's office like a business. It's not there for profit. Yeah, you're right, it's not there for profit. Your tax dollars pay for all those court cases that have to be paid for. Is that how you want your money spent, really? I don't think so. I think you want to be able to trust what your money is being used for. and not having it misused. You don't mind having your tax dollars going to the sheriff's office, but you don't want it misused. We don't ever like things misused. And that is what is happening now, and I'd like to see accountability happen. There are times where we need to take a step forward and realize if we continue voting in the same kind of people in the same office, what is happening will continue over and over and over again. Nothing will change. It's like Hillary has a ton of experience with the government, doesn't she? Does her experience do any good for our country? Absolutely not. And this is what's happening with getting all these law enforcement people. They've been law enforcement people for 28 years or 30 years, and they're doing the same thing they did. They're bringing it into the sheriff's office, which we don't need. Right now, the sheriff's office is being held accountable for perjury. Can you imagine your sheriff's office perjurizing themselves in a court of law? I believe in America's Constitution. I also believe in the 10 Commandments. A sheriff is to be the conscience of the sheriff's office. The sheriff does not go out and write speeding tickets or fill in the forms that have to be done. They don't go out on investigations. They are the leader of a group of people that are hired to protect you. And that's what needs to be done. When someone doesn't live with a conscience of right and wrong, it goes out the door. Look what's happened since we've taken 10 Commandments away from schools. Have things gotten better? Absolutely not. Because there's no one with a solid direction and a solid foundation. Fortunately, the Tea Party has one, and I applaud the Tea Party for doing that in spite of many Tea Parties not being able to get their 501c3. I'm sure you remember those days, and I think there's one person that's still fighting for getting their 501c3. And I have to applaud Trump in the fact he wants to take the 501c3s away from the churches so that they can have as much free speech as you and I have. I think that's great. We don't need more laws, we need less laws. Our founders wanted to have minimal government. And what do you have? We have almost all of the population working for the government somewhere along the line. As I said, in 1980, I started a business, and I know right from wrong. I know what to look for, and I can easily take those same qualities and move them into a sheriff's office so that they can be an accountable office, not only to the sheriff, but to you. I think we deserve better than what we're getting right now. And that is why I'm running. I actually had somebody ask me, if you weren't running for office of sheriff, who would you vote for? I'll tell you what, that's why I'm running for office. I know the people that are running against me, and I know their backgrounds, and I've seen some of the shenanigans that have been done. And we don't need it to transfer into the sheriff's office again. We have wonderful deputies, highly trained to protect you. And sometimes they're taken off the job in order to do something they shouldn't be doing. And I don't like to have that going on. We don't need to have as many people in the command staff at the MCSO. We need to have less, and we can. I think it's LA County that's bigger than ours. I think they have six or eight command staff members. How many people does MCSO have? Almost 20. And they're not even as big as LA. So you get people that have lots and lots of experience, just like Hillary, lots of experience, but do absolutely no good. And that's what we need to stay away from now. People say, well, you don't have any law enforcement background. Well, let's see, I went along with the sheriff's office for over 4 years working with them. I also became a commander of one of the posses. And I was a commander of that posse until they wanted the 501c3 that we had, and they wanted $200,000 that we had raised for animals. I'm sure you're familiar with the animals program that the office runs, where they have abused and abandoned animals brought in. And our organization paid for vet bills, special need food for those animals. Well, when the sheriff's office wants, for their own budgetary constraints, the money we raised for animals that was donated specifically to animals, this is not a good thing to have done. In fact, it's illegal. It would have been illegal for us to have given the sheriff's office this $200,000. So we voted not to. And a month later, they decided to retaliate on us, which cost us thousands and thousands of dollars, including getting lawyers to protect us while they sicked the Attorney General's office. Now, we're not the only ones that this happened to. It's happened to several individuals and several posses. In fact, you're back there in Prescott, we had a helicopter posse. These people had their own helicopters, used their own fuel, piloted their own helicopters to go on search and rescue. The sheriff from, I don't know, maybe you've heard this story, but the sheriff in Prescott called the helicopter posse and said, we need help desperately on a search and rescue. And they said, yes, we'd be there, but we got to check in with the sheriff's office. The enforcement support, that's the umbrella the posses are under, said, absolutely not. Do not go to Prescott. I think it was 2 days later, they separated from the sheriff's office. And now that same group of helicopter pilots are available even in Prescott. So that's a good thing. They're available for anybody that needs search and rescue. And I'm proud to know the person that runs that organization. So there's a lot of wonderful people working at MCSO. Let them do their jobs. Let them do the jobs they've trained for and enjoy doing. Don't get them off on a tangent. Let them serve you and I, as citizens of Maricopa County, correctly. We need to back our deputies. We have a lot at Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, highly trained people, and we need to back them. We need to give them good leadership, and that's what I plan to do as Sheriff of Maricopa County. And I would appreciate your backing, I'd appreciate your support, and I'd appreciate you voting for me on your early ballot also. So thank you for having me, Vera. I appreciate being with the Tea Parties, because Tea Parties are more truly constitutionalists. And that's what we need to back our country with, is our Constitution, not some crazy laws that have nothing to do with the Constitution of the United States. So God bless America, God bless Maricopa County.